we really would live in like a Dubai style infrastructure utopia if we weren't sending $100 billion to, the actor in the t-shirt in Ukraine. The way that they spend on something like Ukraine is the same way that you spend on like a wedding. It's like, how much flowers are, but you really don't want to mess them up. It's like all logic and reason is out the window because it's a wedding. It's the same thing that they do with this. It's like, there's a war at stake and Putin's coming for everybody. Therefore, like this cokehead in a t-shirt, this guy needs to get all the money now because he's got houses in London and real estate investments that he has to pay for.
My opinion on Sean Combs, on P. Diddy, is that he's a fall guy. He's a scapegoat. What did he do wrong? Yeah, but I think there's bigger players at play. Same with Epstein. Do you think we'll ever get to the bottom of any of that stuff? Do you think we'll ever know who's on those lists or who was part of that?
No. The reason they're taking Diddy down is because he's no longer useful. It's like once you become so hot that you can't be used to entrap other people, what use do I have? Now you're just a liability. Now you have to be destroyed.
Hi, everybody. My name is Aaron, and I'm here to remind you about something significant that happened in our world a couple of years ago. It was called the coronavirus. And our government that loves us so much that they treat us like a very, very petted and loved guinea pig rolled out a shot that made us all better. And not just the shot, they also gave us boosters to go with it. And so I only had the side effects of a few sleepless nights, an extra penis sprouted. Who doesn't want one of those? And I had a strange little breakout on my forehead. It could have been the 26 boosters that I got after that. But I know my government loves me, and the big pharmaceutical companies don't want me dead, just dependent on their ever-loving research and scientific care. So go out and get your shot and your boosters, because remember, the government is here to take care of you. This is your public service announcement. I'm a gun guy. I love my firearms. I love stockpiling my ammunition. I've got all the stuff out there, but sometimes you run into some things that are a little bit hard to find. That's when I turn to my good buddies over at UnitedPatriotSupply.com. They're not only my friends, they're partners with this show, and I'm proud to know them because they deliver. And let me tell you, when I say they deliver, if there's stuff out there you're looking for and you're having a hard time finding it, I guarantee you there's a very good chance they're going to have what you're looking for. So go out there and check them out, UnitedPatriotSupply.com. Right now, they got a deal going. When you buy a firearm, you can get up to 5 ounces of free silver with every order. So they got a silver incentive program because United Patriot Supply, they're also United Patriot Coin, and you've heard us talk about them as well. So you buy a firearm, you get silver with it. You get a free ounce of silver for every $500 you spend on guns. That's up to 5 free ounces. So you buy a $2,500 gun, guess what? You're going to get 5 pieces of silver. That's a pretty cool deal. So check it out. It's a combined promotion between United Patriot Supply and United Patriot Coin. And just get over there and get to know those guys. I tell you, you're going to love them, and they're going to be a regular stop and shop for you. So head over to UnitedPatriotSupply.com. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Chad Prather Show, man. Things are getting good out there. I don't know if you're paying attention or not, but social media is ablaze with all kinds of craziness out there. But of course, it's the end of the world, so we know that it's going to be more insane before it ever gets back to any sense of normalcy, whatever the hell normalcy is anymore. This is an election year, folks, so you can just anticipate any kind of thing coming down the pike. Last week we had an eclipse and suddenly John Fetterman started making sense again. So I don't know. It's weird how these things happen. But I'm trying to have fun with it, guys. I want you to come out, find me on the road. WatchChad.com is where all the fun stuff is. You can check it out. And don't forget to take care of our sponsors. Visit their websites as we tell you about them because they're valued partners and they make sure that you get this program and you get it for free. The only thing we ever ask you to do is go leave us a 5-star rating and a good review. So one of my favorite follows and one of my favorite friends is going to join me on the show today. You need to check him out at Take Naps.
You can find him out there just stirring things up and getting crazy. He's been on the show before, but you guys know him as Bobby Sauce, Bobby Sausalito. He's coming to us from Florida. Bobby Sauce, what's up, brother?
Chilling, man. Living the dream as usual. While the world melts.
Dude, I tell you what, you and I, we got to get back together. I have not been with you, I guess. Well, no, I saw you at an event here in Dallas I guess it was last year. And then you and I have done some shows together in Florida. You're holding down the Sunshine State over there, keeping it real. I was just there last week. And man, I tell you, I you spend a little time in some of the nice parts of Florida, you understand why people go there. Mm-hmm. And you're one of those Northeasterners that came down. Tell me that story. How did you wind up in Florida?
So I lived in Connecticut. I was sick of being cold, and I had a buddy of mine that I was going to move with, and I was looking for places that I would still be accessible to New England, to Connecticut, where I was from. And my buddy was like, "Screw it, dude. Let's just move to South Beach." And I hadn't even really thought of this as an option. And I said, "All right." So we came down to Florida, and I realized that it was illegal to own a pit bull in Dade County, and I had a purebred pit bull. So I went to the biggest city north of there, and that was Fort Lauderdale, and that was kind of how it all came to be.
So it's illegal. Is it still illegal in Dade County to own a pit bull?
Yeah. Yes.
How does that? I mean, aren't there a bunch of rappers in Miami-Dade? I mean, how do they get away with that?
Like, people get away with it, but they were bringing them over from, I believe it was Cuba in the 80s and the 90s, and fighting them. And I think there was like a little girl that got killed at some point in the 90s, so they outlawed them in the county entirely. And a lot of people still have them. It's not like there's dog police going around, but the idea is, like, in the event that, like, it was to get out, let's say, and like gets picked up by the pound, or let's say, God forbid, it attacked a person or attacked like a neighbor's cat, for example, they could basically just take it away or put it down straight away. Now, if the same thing was to happen here, where they're not illegal to own, there would be a little bit of a different process. So I just didn't want to risk it. And it turned out that I didn't really like Miami as far as a place to live as much anyhow. So I'm much more happy up here. But it just so happened to be that I picked Florida because I wanted to be in the same time zone and be able to fly home.
Miami even has a rapper by the name of Pitbull. So, I mean, the irony of that, he hasn't been outlawed. My good buddy, Tyson Pfeiffer, who's an incredible comedian out of Dallas, he's got a pit bull that he named Mr. Worldwide. So I'll let everybody do the math on that. I thought that was pretty creative. But you know, talking about the dog police. So my girlfriend CJ, we have 3 dogs. She's got 2, I've got 1, but they basically stay together all the time. And the dogs were over at her house 2 weeks ago, and she's got a neighbor who's not feeling well, dealing with some illness, and so she's kind of angry and irritable next door. And her dog got out, and so she called the police, and the pound came, or the animal control came, and wrote her a ticket and said, this was based on a witness statement. We have to write you a ticket because there was a witness that said your dog was out. And I was like, did they have pictures? Was there proof? I mean, what kind of Gestapo bullshit is this that's going on? So I'm starting to think that maybe Texas and Florida have too many rules. We call ourselves free, but damn, what's going on there?
I know. You know, it's funny. On that same vein, Andy Frisell talks about this often. He's like, America talks about how it's free all the time, but like we pay a pretty outlandish amount of taxes. And obviously it's better quality of living and all these other aspects than the rest of the world. But we like make fun of them for how much taxes they pay. But we actually pay quite a bit of taxes as well. And if you're making a lot of money, you're paying, like, in a lot of cases, more than 50% of your income. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I think Texas and Florida are certainly the places that I would want to be, but it's definitely not a free utopia. There's no doubt about that.
No, there's no doubt. You know, I used to fight real hard about saying I spent a lot of time in third world countries, and so I know what it's like to be in places that aren't free, and people would push back and say, you think you're free here in America? And I would sit out there and argue with people, and now I look back and I go, God, I was wrong. I was so damn stupid. Yeah, we can cross state lines without having to show our papers, but damn, I mean, there's nothing we can do right now that isn't taxed. I just talked with my CPA yesterday. I'm still dealing with issues from a couple of years ago when COVID was going on and IRS was not in the office, and you know, everything you sent to the IRS was sitting in a semi-truck out in the parking lot of their locations. And I read something recently that said that if the IRS required all of their people right now to come back to work, that they'd be in shambles. Like, they wouldn't know what to do. These people have been working remotely for so many years at this point. But I told my CPA, I was like, dude, we got to get this done. Like, I'm not a big fan of paying taxes, and I really fight the IRS as much as I can, but I know there are certain dots you got to put over the I's and crosses over the T's. And I said, I'm too soft for prison. So, welcome to America, the land of the free. I think our founding fathers would be spilling tea into the harbor long before now, right?
Yeah, and my accountant told me some things about some new rules. Like, you have to report income that comes from outside of the country, even if you're selling like a digital product. Like, if I was to sell an ebook or something to a person that lives in Ireland, I would need to declare that this took place out of the country. It's a new rule. And I was just like, what is even that? And meanwhile, it's like, and I was just saying to somebody yesterday, we really would live in like a Dubai style infrastructure utopia if we weren't sending $100 billion to, the actor in the t-shirt in Ukraine and all of these demons around the world that are just squandering this money. It's like, we really could be good if we kept the exact same amount of taxes, which I think are outlandish, and we just stopped sending them to other places. It actually would be pretty great. And it's almost like, maybe I wouldn't mind spending that much money on taxes if you weren't shipping it to Ukraine or to Israel or wherever else.
Every time I put something out, on X or wherever about taxation as theft and the dangers and the ills and the evils of socialism, people say, well, we have social programs. Yeah, social programs aren't socialism, first of all.
Yeah.
I love the way they push that narrative, but they say, well, who's going to take care of the roads and the post office and all this kind of stuff? I was like, we should have some really damn good roads if we weren't propping up, the money laundering, the laundromat in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And I don't think that albatross is getting off of our neck anytime in my or your lifetime, this Zelensky stuff. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. My friend Luke from wearechange.org, he made a comment very early on, and he was like, this war is going to go on for over 10 years. Mm-hmm. And he's like, this is the same thing with Afghanistan. It's like, as soon as we were out of Afghanistan, they needed to find a new way to wash this money out, and the military-industrial complex needed a new reason to be making fighter jets and making munitions and making bombs. Not that we're not squandering them in other parts of the world as it sits already. Not like we don't already have military stationed in all other parts of the world. But this is like a ramp up where it's almost like the way that they spend on something like Ukraine is the same way that you spend on like a wedding. It's like, how much flowers are, but you really don't want to mess them up. It's like all logic and reason is out the window because it's a wedding. It's the same thing that they do with this. It's like, there's a war at stake and Putin's coming for everybody. Therefore, like this cokehead in a t-shirt, this guy needs to get all the money now because he's got houses in London and real estate investments that he has to pay for. So,
dude, that's such a profound statement right there. That's why I love you. You're like, but don't you want your daughter to have a happy wedding ceremony?
Yeah.
Spend the money, Dad.
Exactly.
She only gets married once. Uh-huh. I mean, Ukraine's only going to get invaded by Putin once. Let's make sure this war is done right.
Yeah. Exactly. Do you want Putin to take over the world? It's like, did he say he's going to take over the war? Is there any indication that he's going to take over the world? Was there not like years of build up to this where he was like, don't do this? Or like, it's like, it doesn't even make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
Sad.
And here we are, I don't know. Hey guys, the world may be going down in flames, but it's not going to get me down. It's not going to depress me. Nope, absolutely not. It may be a complete disaster out there with all these Bidenomics and all the crazy stuff happening in our world, but it's not going to ruin my day. You know why? Because I started my day with a really good dark cup of coffee, and it was delicious. It is an America First cup of coffee from Blackout Coffee. Man, I'm so proud to partner with these guys. Their coffee is 100% American, 0% grift. Blackout Coffee is 100% committed to conservative values. They source the beans, the roasting process, the customer support and shipping. Everything they do embodies the true American spirit, the hardworking values, and they accept no compromise on taste or quality. I'm telling you something. When you see this cup sitting on this table, it is filled with Blackout Coffee. I love it so much, and maybe drinking too much of it, we'll see, but it's delicious. Listen, I want you to support small businesses across the country that have the same values you do, and Blackout Coffee is one of those companies. So I want you to check them out and see what you think. Listen, not only they're American first, they're family owned. So I want you to go to blackoutcoffee.com/Chad, and right now, if you use promo code CHAD, I spell it Chad, you're going to get 20% off your first order. That's blackoutcoffee.com/Chad. Use promo code Chad. One more time, blackoutcoffee.com/Chad. Use that promo code Chad. This whole blindly following what the big government is telling you to do phenomena that is going on. Like, I guess I'm a peace, love hippie. I don't know. Like, don't trust the government. Don't trust big pharma. Call everybody out. All the institutions are corrupt. Anything that's an alphabet agency should be demolished and abolished. I guess I'm like a 1968 hippie liberal that should have been dancing around Woodstock in his underwear in the mud or something, because I don't. Where did things change on stuff like this? Talk about your journey a little bit, because you're a common sense dude. You're like me in that I don't know that you necessarily, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Bobby, but I don't think you necessarily just kowtow to the party line. I mean, no. I've never seen you do that. I've never heard you do that. Talk a little bit about your journey to get to where you are, wherever that is, and kind of what your thought process is right now and what you're believing.
Sure. So, I mean, in 2008, when I became hip to everything, when I started going like 9/11 documentary, I started going quantum physics, I started trying to understand just the goings on of the world, money, where money comes from. I was like, okay, it's all corrupt. It's like, it's a foregone conclusion. Like, they're going to get us. They've been working on this for thousands of years. The international banking cartels and all of these people with all this money, like, it's in the bag. And the first person that I ever saw say anything that even reasonably came near what I would believe to be different was Ron Paul. And even though I knew Ron Paul didn't have a chance, it was, I'd only voted in one election. I was like, okay, maybe Ron Paul, maybe that's what it is. When he was gone, I lost faith again, and I just was like, I'm going to live my life. And then Trump came around, and naturally, because I had this understanding of, I guess how the world is not what it seems, I was like, well, this guy is different. I hated him at first. I thought that he was bad at first. And then you start to pay attention, and you're like, wait, this is very Ron Paul-esque in the right ways. And then also this guy happens to be hilarious. It's like, at the very least, I just want to watch the drama. Like, if he gets elected, but will he get elected? He couldn't, because there's this cabal. And then he gets in, and I was like, okay, like, now let's see if now let's at least watch him like wrecking ball the whole thing. So I watched, and it was like, you almost give him the benefit of the doubt because he's not everybody else. He doesn't look like George Bush. He doesn't look like Obama. He's not polished. It's like, what the guy's thinking. He'll blurt it right out. And that was a great thing. But at the same time, it also kind of lets you give him the pass on things like COVID. You're like, well, he loves America. Maybe this is what has to happen. I don't know. Maybe Fauci is not that bad, whatever. Then when it came to the point where he didn't get reelected again, it's like, okay, if they can steal it, blah, blah, blah. He said he was going to get it back. He said he was going to get it fixed, and now he's out. And it's like, wait a second, there's a lot of things that he said that actually didn't come true. So then I started realizing, like, I wanted to be a team player, but now I'm starting to see all the things that I overlooked that happened when he was there. And at the very beginning of when he started to run for president, it seemed like there was no other option, and people were really interested in DeSantis. So I started paying attention to DeSantis. Everybody really liked him. They were polling neck and neck, and I was like, okay, this actually seems like a viable alternative. And then once Donnie basically says, Ron is dumb, he's a loser, he's a rhino, the guy that everybody liked, now all of a sudden became the guy that half the people started to hate. And then I started realizing that this party loyalty, like, goes both ways. And now I actually feel like I have no party. And they're like, oh, what are you, just sour because you want Ron and his heels and stuff? And it's like, no, it's like this guy did lots of really good things, and Donnie pretended that the things that he did that were good were just because the sun was out, and also Rick Scott didn't do a bad job, and and Charlie Crist didn't do a bad job either. And I'm like, wait, this dude's kind of lying. Now I don't really have much of a home, and I believe that the right is right 99% of the time. But now I'm back to, I hate to say it, square one, where all these dudes are in on it. There's a lot of scumbags in there. Both sides are super corrupt. The right, I would say, probably slightly less. But I find myself very disconnected from the whole thing, and very much like I don't have a home. I'm in the black pill community now, as they say.
You're like my buddy Andrew Heaton calls, you're a political orphan. You're a political orphan. And I can relate to that, right? Because, I was at Mar-a-Lago last week. Trump walked up. He said hello. He called me by name, shook my hand, and then he started to walk off. And CJ said something to him. Of course, she's a beautiful girl, so he turned back around and acknowledged her a little bit more because that's Trump. And then CJ said, "I feel like I interrupted y'all's conversation." I said, "I feel like Donald Trump is kind of pissed at me because while I want Trump in that he's not Joe Biden, I don't like the things that went on looking back. And I think that what we have to do and what you're saying, what I'm hearing you say at least, is we've got to be critical thinkers enough to say, listen, I'm not going to drink the Kool-Aid. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it should have been done differently, yes, hindsight's 20/20, but there were things that went on, things we didn't like, and things that we wish we could have changed. There's things he's never going to apologize for. There's things he's never going to admit that he was wrong. Ron DeSantis, at the end of the day, I truly believe in my heart of hearts, is a good man. I think he's a great politician. I think he's a great leader. I think he's intelligent. I think he knows his stuff. I think he's the future in a lot of ways. And this stuff that everybody want to pull out of their ass and say, oh, he's a big government shill. He's a GOP uniparty. He's bought out. He's this and that. I'm like, shut up. I mean, it's just, you can't. That is such a tired trope at this point. These people who are willing to put their lives on the line and literally sacrifice everything from privacy to personal finances to put themselves out there like this to just get crucified by the general public. I just, you don't, guys like Mitch McConnell and what's the other, Lindsey Graham, guys like that, the permanent Washington guys, the Chuck Schumers, the Nancy Pelosi's, they're not out there doing that. They're just cashing in year after year, sacrificing absolute nothing. But these guys like DeSantis, even Trump, or Kerry Lake, or some of these other people that you look out there and you say, man, these are radical people. I don't know if I like them or not. They got skin in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that like it's okay. What people need to do, first of all, is like you need to separate the character of the person, the personality, from the actions and the execution of them. It's like, do you want to hang out with Ron DeSantis versus hang out with Trump? I would say 99% of people would say no. Like the man of Trump, the person is charismatic, likable, knows how to brand, knows how to market, knows how to be personable with you in a way that DeSantis, hate to say it, just doesn't. Yeah. But when it comes to like actual leadership and execution, it's like it's hard to deny what this guy did. And what really killed me and what threw me off about the right, that I'm like, this is my people, is like they refuse to acknowledge the things that Trump says and does and the execution, and they criticize him in a way, and they criticize DeSantis or whomever actually in a different way than they criticize Trump. It's like, if you're going to say that DeSantis did X, Y, and Z, but then it comes true that Donnie did the exact same thing, and you're just like, well, what do you think? What do you not like America? What do you want Biden to win? It's like, bro, I thought you guys were fully thinking, but you get to this tier and then you're just like, but he loves America. It's like, I'm not saying he doesn't love America. So it's like, it becomes down to, it's almost like in a debate. It's like, in a debate, you have to isolate very specific arguments. And that's why there's like, when there's a moderator in a debate, it's like, this is the topic, we stay on the topic. You don't straw man out to some other thing that's not related. I feel like so many people can't stay on an individual topic. They're like, Soros said that DeSantis is good. And it's like, well, he didn't. And by the way, Donnie took a loan from Soros for however many millions of dollars. So objectively, he did at the very least the same thing, if not more, with Soros. And I don't want to go into a whole Soros thing, but for you to unfairly criticize him and say he's with Soros because Soros said he'd be a better politician or whatever is not congruent. So it's like, when you do that, and if you were in a normal debate, as soon as that topic is concluded and it comes for them to respond, they're like, well, what do you like, Biden? It's like, we're not even talking about that. So it's almost like the argument is lost on people that don't want to see past it. And the thing that I always say is like, if you were to realize these things to be true, you would have to rethink your own approach, and you would have to rethink your assessment of the man. So the easiest thing to do is to just compartmentalize and be like, no, I trust Donnie. I like Donnie. He's funny. Wasn't he the best president in America? And it's like, he was very good, but they just don't want to think about it, because then they will have to explain it and justify it to their friends. Then they will have to rethink their own approach. And that's a lot of work. And I don't think that people want to do that work.
So it was interesting. to that point that the Vanity Fair came out with a story. They talked about it on Morning Joe the other day, Joe Scarborough, Mika Brzezinski, and there was an article by Gabriel Sherman on Vanity Fair who said it was called Inside the Terrifyingly Competent Trump 2024 Campaign. Now, I want your take on this because he drew a conclusion that I thought was interesting. So he said, Trump's running this incredible campaign. Nothing can stop him. He said nothing short of putting him in jail is going to stop this campaign. They're doing such a good job. But because he's so embroiled in the legal battles, the conclusion was he's having to stay out of the campaign. And so since his hands aren't in it and on it every day, that his people are actually running a hell of a campaign against Biden. What do you think about that? They're saying Donnie's not involved, so it's working.
Yeah. Yeah, there's actually, I've heard of a few really good perspectives on this where it's like if Trump had Twitter, he would be tripping on his words a lot more. It's almost like because he's on Truth and people have to go find it. You know, it's like how many people use Truth on a daily basis? Not that many people, and certainly not that many liberals. So it's almost like by him yelling in an empty hallway, it's protecting him because the words don't go as far. I'm going to be honest. I don't log on to Truth Social at all anymore. Every once in a while, but I really don't. It's only if there's like a controversy and I want to make sure what he actually wrote is what he actually wrote. So it's like even someone like me that could react to the day-to-day isn't doing that. So I think it's like by him almost like trapping himself in this echo chamber, it's protecting him. And another analysis is like, it's like if the election is about Trump and Trump's antics, his behavior, his personality, he loses. If it's about Biden, Biden loses. It's like wherever the focus is on a day-to-day basis, the better. And if Trump is just in court and not saying something, not at a rally yelling or whatever, he can't trip himself up and choke up on his own words as frequently. So I think that that's actually an accurate assessment because the point is that it's like every single time we talk about Trump, we're not talking about Biden. And it's like how anybody could overlook the stuff that not only that the guy is doing and his handlers are doing, but just the age of the guy and how deteriorated he is just on a day-to-day basis. Like it's sad. And the less that we focus on that and literally anything else, Trump and whoever, the worse it would be for Trump. It's like we need to be looking in that direction.
You're enough conspiracy theorist. You think through these things. You're a critical guy. Let's talk a little bit about is there something there or not? Okay, just your quick takes on this. So the Baltimore Bridge, Francis Scott Key Bridge, just an accident? What do you think?
You know, hard to tell. I will say that without pretending like I know beyond what anybody else knows, I think logically speaking, I don't see the reason for it. Yeah. I don't see the reason that it would be that beneficial. It's like, okay, they wanted to juice the auto prices. Like, I don't know. And then it's like, they wanted to kill a bunch of people. Why do it at 5 o'clock in the morning? I think that the most likely scenario is a combination of, these ships are staffed with a lot of people that are overseas. There's very lax security protocols on these ships in order for them to sail into these harbors. This was likely a foreign flag ship with a foreign crew. The laws and regulations and rules that are behind these tankers for having backup mechanisms and having backup engines and all of these specifics, those rules are set by the government. So I would wager that like a long period of time with really lax rules, really poor enforcement, really bad, guy head of infrastructure who's Pete Buttigieg. The guy's just like, I proposed to Chasten at a train station, and like they make this guy the infrastructure guy. So I think I think the combination of like lax rules, lax inspection, bad just overall from the government side, and then just like not really investigating these foreign ships and the security protocols. I think the combination of all those things together, it was probably several user error. Mm-hmm. It was probably user error from several people, and to me that actually seems like the most likely. I think that the black box or whatever going out for 2 minutes, that certainly is suspect, but I would wager that like that might lend more credibility to the user error side of it. And it's like, imagine if you're the Biden administration and this was something that Pete Buttigieg was supposed to manage and his associates, and you spent all these billions of dollars on infrastructure and you blew this and you just took out a massive bridge. That wouldn't look good for Biden in a campaign year. So it's almost like them coming in and covering it up. It's like, it's not like they're covering up for China for some nefarious entity. It seems like they just want to make Buttigieg look good and cover their tracks while also like kind of like feeding into the conspiracy theories so that people go and run wild and blame anybody but them.
Right.
So to me, it seems like that is the most likely scenario, in my opinion.
I agree. The only, the black box thing was suspect. And then the other thing, naval protocol, if you were to lose power, you're supposed to drop anchor. And they didn't do that. So that was another thing, which, I mean, again, when you're panicking, I don't know, but you would think that a ship captain would know enough. If you're coming across the Pacific Ocean, you should be pretty well versed in what your protocol is on that. But again, I'm with you. I think this was an accident. Yeah, it could be some other things there, but probably just an accident.
Yeah.
Here's the issue that I have, Bobby. Here's the thing that bothers me more than the act itself is the ripple after the splash, right? How like this administration handles things post-fact, or post-event. So you take the train spillage and the train wreck in East Palestine, Ohio. Now they're going to say, well, Norfolk Southern is going to pay $600 million to that community. Norfolk Southern, you can blame the train wreck on whatever. I mean, you can actually go back, and a lot of people have made claims that it's because of some of Donald Trump's protocols that he put in place that lessened the safety of this situation. Of course, we know the incompetence of Pete Buttigieg. And so you've got but the aftermath of it. So Biden doesn't go out there until it's pertinent in an election year to make a visit to this community. And then you look at who owns Norfolk Southern. You've got, I think BlackRock owns like 5%, Vanguard owns like 5%, and on down the line, these major investors that are on there. It's the aftermath of these things of when you have an administration that says build back better and they can't build back shit. Right? That's what concerns me, not the actual bridge falling or the, airplane's wheels falling off or the door blowing off at 15, 16,000 feet landing in somebody's front yard. It's the aftermath. Nothing ever seems to get done about it, which, again, is one of the main concerns of incompetence that I have when it comes to this administration. And I will say that I think the alternative in Trump is a lot more competent,
Yes, I think that's true. And here's the other thing, and you actually made a really good point there, where it's like, could Donnie's policies have contributed to this? Yes. Will anybody that likes Donnie do anything that blame this squarely on Biden? Of course, that's what they're going to do. Of course. And then they're like, but Donnie went there and threw cheeseburgers at them from McDonald's, and he gave everybody a hamburger. It's like, yeah, and objectively, that's a better man. That's the better sign of the man. Yes. But it's like, did his policies have something to do with it? Perhaps. Are all the donors that he needs just as much as Biden needs also integrated into this? Mm-hmm. Yes. And to me, this is kind of like the hard reality of it all. It's like, is the right better? Yes, more often than not. Is it better to vote that way? Yes, more often than not. But the reality is that people demonize these corporations, the big bad corporations. It's like, I trust these corporations more than I trust these elected bureaucrats. It's like at least with a corporation we can pull away from them. It's the bureaucracy that makes these corporations so big that they can't be toppled. It's like, use something like Boeing. It's like Boeing is the only company that produces these jets. A lot of our tax dollars go to help support them. They're a too big to fail company. We buy all of the war machine from them. We buy a lot of planes and whatnot from them. And then when their guys screw up, do our enforcement wings go in and do it? Do we clean it up? Does the FAA go in and drop the hammer on them? No, because that is America. It's the great American company, and they donate to this guy and donate to this guy. So it's almost like the fact that the bureaucracy is so big creates the environments for these corporations to run wild. The answer to any and all of our problems is back to what Ron Paul says originally, and not necessarily the isolationist aspect of it, but it's like the bureaucracy getting in the way causes all of these problems. And if the government wasn't so big and didn't have so much power to wield which company wins and loses and which thing happens at which time, these corporations would be more accountable to us, and they would rise and fall based on the will of the people. But it's because of these bureaucrats that they are able to put in, that they have so much power. It's the reason why these companies grow to such a big size to begin with. And that's why somebody like a Norfolk Southern or the company that blew that bridge out or whatever else, it's like there's all these political connections to them where it's like even if they make a mistake, the politicians will lose, so they're almost beholden to them. It's like a smaller government and more money in the pocket of the people would create a better environment. And even things like Social Security, you could say that, yeah, that's a socialist program. We shouldn't have it. It's going to go bankrupt. If you let people fend for themselves and they had an investment savings account that they managed on their own, or we actually taught people how to manage money, you would have had a whole lot more money probably over the course of your life, even by investing in like a basic index fund, as opposed to kicking it into the government for your entire life and then getting some small chunk of it from 65 on. So the presence of big government, R or D, is ultimately the cause of so many more of our problems than we think. And if people just say, well, I like this guy with the R, Donnie is cool and his wife is hot and he hands out cheeseburgers and he can't do any wrong, and we just blame everything on Biden, then we're stuck in that same trap where Donnie is never held accountable for anything bad that he does. And that is a problem in and of itself, because if he does get in again and he starts doing things that are bad, nobody's going to say boo about it. And that's a problem that I see coming should he get elected again.
So two questions based on that. I tend to think anything big is bad, whether it's government, business, bureaucracy, judicial systems, whatever. Anything big is bad. What are your thoughts? You think that's true, or is it too broad?
I think that there's a very specific example of this that I'm not perfect on it, but Rockefeller, it's like, when he was the oil man in the United States of America, he was producing oil and gasoline at a very low price, and everybody was satisfied with the product, and he was doing it the best. And it's like he was thriving as a result of him having the best product at the best price and providing it to the most people, and he was able to get rich from it. That's the American way. And it wasn't until they came up with these monopoly rules that they forced him to break up his oil empire in order to stop doing that. And he actually became far richer after the bureaucracy came in and broke it up for these monopoly rules. And one of the things that he did, and forgive me on the history, but he actually took some of the waste, the petroleum waste that came as a result of producing oil or whatever, and he started using it for like petroleum jelly and other products. He took the waste product and was able to monetize it in another way. So here you have a big corporation that's increasing the quality of life for people and providing a product and service that everybody's liking, that's dominating the competition. And then he figured out a way to turn the waste product into money, and that's why he's eating all their lunch. So I don't necessarily think that bad is always bad, but I definitely think it creates an environment where you have an outsized amount of power. And if bureaucracy was to do anything, protecting us from only the most extreme examples of that would be a wise use of them. But in reality, they actually do the opposite, where you have things like the SEC that was supposed to protect us from bad investments. And economist Peter Schiff talks about this. He's like, the SEC couldn't protect everybody from Madoff. Madoff was intertwined. He couldn't protect him from all that. Mm-hmm. Couldn't protect us from FTX. If there was no SEC, would there not have been a Zagat food reviews for banks? Would there not have been some independent agency that offered some type of validation that would help us evaluate our investments? If the protection arm can't protect us, then what good is the arm? It's like protecting us from bad restaurants. There's Google reviews, there's Yelp reviews, there's Zagat reviews, there's Michelin star. All of these other services create themselves to protect the public, and by us just outsourcing it to some other to some bureaucratic agency like the FDA or whomever else who can be bought and paid for. We're taking that responsibility away from ourselves and giving it to them, and they do a bad job at that, just like they do a bad job at everything else.
Bureaucracy. But who knew that John Rockefeller was so woke, creating a byproduct that was going to benefit the gay community? Yeah. You know, I mean, Pete Buttigieg, no wonder he's the, transportation secretary with a byproduct of petroleum jelly. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. Right. But I think that does.
The back door.
Well, yeah, the back door. I think that that does lend itself to the idea that Trump is going to be a dictator when everybody refuses to see. Like, I think that the people who support Donald Trump, like, just blindly, and there are plenty of those, who, as you alluded to earlier, say, well, Trump can do no wrong. I think they're doing a disservice both to him, his potential administration, his election, his campaign. They're doing a disservice with that type of lip service because it lends itself more to the narrative of saying Trump's going to be the dictator. They can use that because, again, people out there, rather than saying, hey, we're going to be critical and complex in the way we think about this, and we're going to call these things that are the way they are, it'd say, okay, we don't need to repeat this, so let's have some accountability here. We know you're Don Trump. We want you to succeed. We want you to be the man. We know you're the narcissist in chief. We know you're that guy. Yeah, but it lends itself to that dictator narrative, right? And I think we do a disservice by just giving the lip service and everything's positive no matter what, right?
Yeah, yes. Well, that's the other thing too, is that, like, if you point out objective facts, they freak out. And that's that's where you lose me as you being on my side. No, you're not my enemy. No one's my enemy. It's like, we're all human beings. Even a liberal that believes in the most insane things, they're not my enemy. We think differently, and I wish you didn't think that way, but they're not my enemy. But it's like, if you say a true objective fact about something that Donnie did and they just don't want to accept it, that is the thing that concerns me the most, because in the event that happens again, they won't be willing to acknowledge or call it out. It's like, if you hire Alex Azar, if you hire a pharmacy lobbyist to run Health and Human Services to be more powerful than Fauci, and then he ushers all this stuff in, and then as soon as he's out, he goes right back to Pfizer or whomever else. It's like, if you put these people in, and that's what happens, and it's there in plain sight, and all I'm doing is telling you what occurred, and somebody flips upside down and is like, oh, what do you like, DeSantis' heels? It's like, bro, it's like, you gotta stay focused, dude. And like, people, when I say this stuff to this day, they're like, he's still butthurt about DeSantis. It's like, this has nothing to do with DeSantis. You guys, you're stuck in the trap. Yeah. And that's, I think, is a problem, because in the event that he gets back in, he puts some pharmaceutical lobbyist or whomever, let's say a really bad, let's say an oil tycoon like he did with Rex Tillerson. It's like, you put the head of ExxonMobil at the head of the energy. It's like, is that good? I don't know. Maybe not, right? So it's like, but if you're not willing to call him out, then in the event that he's there and he's your savior, you're not even going to accept information that's true from people you already agree with, which means that you cannot receive information. If you like me and what I say 99% of the time, but I say something bad about Donnie or something true you don't want to hear, now you can get it from nowhere, which means it's almost like if your dad says, you're putting on a couple pounds. It's like, if dad can't say that, no one can say that, and then you're just fat, And I think that's the problem.
I want some more appointments, like whenever Trump appointed Rick Perry to be the Secretary of Energy, and he wanted to abolish the thing in his campaign.
Yeah.
For president. And I'm like, that just goes to show you, I don't know that any of these guys know what the hell they're doing, right? It's a weird world we're living in, but we've got to do better about that. We've got to do better about that, because people definitely jump back over, and social media doesn't help. It makes people so combative. All right, another thing. P. Diddy. Did he do it? Did he didn't do it? Did Diddy do littles? What did Diddy do? Okay, so we could talk about P. Diddy. On the same vein, I think that we could talk about Epstein. Obviously, they were running entrapment schemes. They get people in there, they video them, they take pictures of them, then they got them, right? They own these people. So basically, they're influence peddlers and saboteurs of human lives, as well as extortionists, right? Do you think we will ever see? Like, I think my opinion on Sean Combs, on P. Diddy, is that he's a fall guy. He's a scapegoat. What did he do wrong? Yeah, but I think there's bigger players at play. Same with Epstein. Do you think we'll ever know, get to the bottom of any of that stuff? Do you think we'll ever know who's on those lists or who was part of that?
No. And one of I made a video about it where I said, the reason they're taking Diddy down is because he's no longer useful. It's like once you become so hot that you can't be used to entrap other people, what used to have, now you're just a liability. Now you have to be destroyed. It's almost like if it's an open secret that you can't trap anybody. Like if you want to bring in, let's say you have P. Diddy in another country and you want to entrap that guy in that country. Well, what does the FBI do or what do these 3-letter agencies do in all these movies? It's like they let the scumbag be a scumbag because he's getting more scumbags, right? So he's useful. If P. Diddy if it's an open secret for many, many years that he's the guy, he becomes too hot and they need to find a new person to run the situation. So they completely pile on him, destroy him, and eliminate him. And I would wager that somebody like Harvey Weinstein probably falls in that same category. It's like, was that guy a total scumbag? Yeah, but you had Michelle Obama thanking him, like, and I'm pretty sure their daughter interned at their company. It's like those people are all very intertwined. And P. Diddy did a vote or die campaign. He was with Hillary and Obama years ago and stuff. They're all entrenched in there. So I think that the only way to do it once they become too hot is you have to completely destroy them. Where even if P. Diddy, was in Times Square doing a CNN interview, no matter what he said, it's like, well, you can't believe that guy. It's almost like in a crime movie where like the number one witness like is a crackhead, and it's like he's telling the truth, but they're like, he's a crackhead. You can't trust this guy. So it's like, I think that's what they're doing. They're like making P. Diddy the crackhead so that no one falls underneath him, and then they'll find a new person to run the top of the chain, and no one underneath him will be held accountable, much like they did with Epstein. I think that Epstein was likely an asset of our government, and probably a government that cannot be named. And I think the same probably goes for Diddy.
I agree with you. Who did Diddy diddle? I think Diddy diddled a lot of people. The thing about Diddy, man, that's a profound statement you made, Sauce, because you talk about him not being relevant anymore. They did the same thing with Stephen Hawking, right? When he's dead. He's dead. Nobody needs Stephen Hawking anymore. Who knew anybody was partying with Stephen Hawking?
Right.
Who knew that shit was even happening? And so they take the most random guy, and then everybody's like, okay, so we spend more time laughing about it than we do saying, okay, if it's Stephen Hawking, it could literally be anybody. Because, think about it. How abusive and enslaved does a captor have to be of enslaving a girl to make her want to do something sexual with Stephen Hawking, for crying out loud? I don't want to trot my old saggy balls out there, much less see Stephen Hawking's. This is weird stuff, but he's dead. He can't defend himself and whatever, maybe his AI mind, his computer still lives on. I don't know, but they did that because he was no longer useful. So I want to, and I've said it on stage a lot of times, is the government and the DOJ will never tell you who's on these lists because the government and the DOJ are on the lists.
Yes.
So they're not going to reveal themselves.
Right. Exactly. Well, that's the cabal. It's almost like, it's like 1950s New York City. It's like there's 6 gangs and it's like any one of these gangs is bad. And they probably do lots of things that are very good objectively. But the one thing that the gangs are all united on is that we don't want people to outlaw gangs. It's like, as long as we can gang, it's cool. Like if somebody does something bad, it's like, all right, that guy might have to be destroyed. We might have to like burn might have to get them out of the group. But as long as the gangs can operate in tandem, and I think that there's a lot of those factions going on around the world where it's almost like there was some story, I think it was in I don't know if it was in the 30s or the 40s or whatever, where it was like the US government couldn't find some fugitive, and they basically said to like the mafia in Italy, find this guy. And it's like, we're going to look the other way if you help us find this guy. And they were able to find him or solve this missing person, this Interpol, whatever, very quickly. And I don't know the specific story, but you hear about these types of things happening where it's just like, if all these gangs can coexist and they all do bad things, and it's like, well, what happened in Baltimore? It's like, well, we don't want them to know that the gangs are ganging, so let's just pay for the bridge and let them think that it's China or whatever. And like meanwhile, it's like a little bit of both of those things.
Sort of like some checks and balances on the street. I don't know if this is true or not, but this is what I was told a few years ago, because we like to vacation down in Cabo. It's about the only place in Mexico I will go and spend any time literally on the ground. But I was like, relatively low violence, low cartel activity in terms of the fear of danger. You can walk down the street in most of the places. And I asked somebody a few years ago about that, and they said, well, here was the thing. Some of the Las Vegas mafia came down, and they met with the cartels and said, are we going to get along? I mean, can we send people down here? Can we do something down here? Are we going to be okay? And they made a deal, and it was like they kept each other in checks and balances to say, okay, we're going to make sure we all make money off of this thing. So who knows? Maybe it's that kind of deal. It's weird. It's a weird
I think
world.
that's highly probable, and I think that the official gang and the underground gang and the money gang and all of these are all operating, in their own respective silos. And what's most important to all of them is that all of us are looking at each other and not at them. And it's like, it's not a singular entity pulling all the strings together, but like collectively, if you have just an open mind, you can see how all of these things, generally speaking, work towards the same thing. It's like, do all these gangs care if you have a firearm? They'd probably rather that you don't. Do all these gangs care that you have freedom of speech? They probably don't really care because they have freedom of speech. They're outside of it. So it's like the last great threat to this existing is the American way. And it's like, if you were a person hell bent on global domination, whether it be your group being part of it or just the collective, it's like America needs to not be as America as it is. Like we can all agree, it's like, as long as we know that America needs to fall a bit, it'll make sure that we can still operate with impunity. So they're all interested in that, not as an infinitely unified collective, but it's all like I said about the gangs. It's like, as long as we can gang. As long as we can gang on our respective turf, then we're good. Like, we can all get along as long as there's money to be made. And I think that explains a lot of the things that are happening.
Well, the gangs that are scaring me right now are the alphabet agencies, whether it's the FBI or the CIA or the IRS or the WHO or the, those are the guys that scare me. And the more stuff that's coming out, like there was a guy, I think, and I don't know that it was James O'Keefe, but somebody did a deal, a little secret cam where this guy was FBI, and he's basically like, yeah, we just give them a nudge. Like, we can get people in prison if we want. We don't entrap them. We don't call it that. We just give them a little nudge. Like, we took the legs out from under Alex Jones with, that. And I'm like, that's frightening,
Yes.
That's some scary stuff. That really, literally, nobody's safe, which goes back to our whole idea of this illusion of liberty that we claim to be living under. As long as we don't, my friend, Sarah Gonzalez with The Blaze, she's working on a documentary. She was up in Michigan, then she was in D.C., and last night she sent me a picture of herself standing in front of the Capitol building, and immediately I texted back, "You insurrectionist," So I was like, I don't want to get within a quarter mile of that building. And I had nothing to do with January 6th, but I mean, they're arresting people that were taking a piss on a tree in a park somewhere, near the National Mall on that particular day. So it's a scary thing. Hey, Bobby. What do you think about let me go back old school, talk about conspiracies. What do you think happened? What do you think really happened with Paul Pelosi that night when that dude hammered him in his living room?
Dude, I was just thinking about that the other day. I was like, man, I wish that story really came to fruition.
Yeah.
I mean, my guess is that they had some type of relationship of some sort, or they had some type of interaction, whether it could be some type of a drug exchange or something like that. I don't know, but I would wager that that he might have known the guy and might have maybe gotten hooked up with him in some way. But he's like, well, you got to come in the back door. Now, did he tell him to hammer the window in? I don't know. There's a lot of gray, but let's just suffice it to say that the official story, it seems highly improbable to say the least.
I just know that if the police knock on my door at 2:00 in the morning, I'm not gonna answer the front door in a pinpoint starched button-down Oxford shirt
with a drink.
With a drink in tighty-whitey Fruit of the Loom underwear with a sweaty dude holding a hammer next to me, like, "What's up, fellas?" I like that, you know, and like that dude was fight or flight, right? He was like, "I'm getting the F out of here, and I'm gonna run over the Speaker of the House's husband to get." So that was a wild story, and I don't know why Paul would be stepping out when he's got a Cadillac like Nancy in the garage, man. I mean, that woman she is a stud.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I mean, I feel like there was a 911 call who's like, my friend is over here. It's like his friend. They said he went to the bathroom. It's like, what kind of like home invader lets you go to the bath? Like, what is that about? Yeah. So yeah, it's just. And then here's the other thing: you got 24/7 camera watch on this house, and he just. There's this guy jamming on the back window. Like, how does that even occur? That's why I feel like it's like the truth is hidden in plain sight, where it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if Paul was like, "Hey man, like I'm trying to get in this guy's dirt star, like look the other way, like come in the back window. The back window's locked." The guy's like, "What the hell? I'm trying to go in there and, get in this guy's pooper, and like it's locked." I don't know. He hits it. I don't know. It's just like, it just can't be what they said it is. It's like impossible. Like, you're just not having a Cosmopolitan in your underwear.
I just look at how fast they bury the stories and how fast they go away. And they give you no details on his attacker, David DuPape, who was apparently a radical nudist. I don't know what that is. How do you put that on LinkedIn? Like, is that on your resume? What does that do? What's your occupation, a radical nudist? So it's weird, dude.
Known as that. Imagine being known as that. Like so you like ask somebody in the community, like, what do you think of David DePape? And it's like, oh, the nudist. It's like, imagine how many nude, you know what I mean? Like, imagine how much nuding you had to do for people to be like, oh yeah, he's known in the area. I love that.
You're in San Francisco. That's the street shitter. We know him. Yeah. That's Ernie the street shitter. We see him all the time when we're at French Laundry. But the things they bury, like the baggie of cocaine at the White House, back 4th of July party, Friday afternoon, they're having a party. Dudes are showing their tits on the White House lawn. If you go back and watch that video, I promise you look closely, the family's up on the balcony of the White House. Jill's got postnasal drip. You could see it. The whole family's hyped up. And then they get on the plane. They leave town Sunday afternoon. It reveals they got a baggie of cocaine. And I was like, tell me this story. Like, I won't judge. I just want to hear. I just want to hear what's going on at the White House, Yeah.
So most secure building in the entire world, absolutely everything. But this one place wasn't covered. Well, here's the other thing. How about the dudes that were going into the guys that were banging in one of the rooms?
Good point. The Senate staffer.
Yeah.
I just saw Madison Caldwell the other day. Honestly, I'd kind of forgotten Madison Caldwell existed, but I ran Cawthorn, yeah. And I ran into him in Mar-a-Lago, and so I reminded. I was like, "Holy crap!" He used to talk about this stuff like that. They tried to make him out to be some lunatic as he was leaving Congress because he was calling that stuff out and saying this is the kind of stuff that's happening. So it kind of makes me wonder that kid who was the Senate staffer who was getting, his guts rearranged in that hearing room. I'm sitting there going, he sure was pretty confident in his ability to get away with that. I mean, you're going to live stream it, video it, whatever he was doing. You're pretty confident in that whole deal. How many people are railing this dude, and how much are they using that for leverage against people?
No. That's right. And like, think about that. Remember the Flecka's Talks podcast? They call him the luggage twink, the guy that stole the women's clothes.
Sam Brenton.
And he was wearing the women's clothes. Not only is he wearing her clothes, he's like wearing like a uniquely made one of one kind out in public. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't wear, like, if I stole my neighbor's clothes, like, you wouldn't see me walking my dog up the street in the clothes. Like, maybe I'm in the house doing it, maybe if I'm on vacation, but you're not getting me in photos. So it's like the brazenness that they're getting caught and how long it goes on. It's like, that has to be happening a million times over. And again, it further lends itself to the gang analogy or whatever that we're talking about, where it's just like, you get a bunch of degenerates in a group together, and you're all interested in like keeping the con going. And it's like, all right, well, you can petroleum jelly this guy in this room, and like we're gonna catch it on film, and that's fine. Just like don't expose this thing, you know? It's like everybody can just be like a total scumbag a little bit, as long as you don't take down, the House of Cards.
You can't. And you know what, Sam Brenton, that's a weird story too, because you can't dress like that. You can't have that kind of style on a government salary. So obviously that's what that guy was doing. He was just marking nice bags that looked like it could belong to a woman, and he was just stealing the style. He was literally, stealing the runway.
Yeah.
Wild,
he
dude.
was. He really was at an airport, nonetheless.
Yeah.
Which is like the most it's like the most surveilled. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. It's like that's the brazenness of it. It's like, again, it's like steal your neighbor's like their clothes and walk down the street in front of their house. It's like you could at least wear it somewhere else, dude. It's like they really just feel like they're untouchable, and I think that goes on so far. And it's like somebody like Joe Biden. It's like if you don't even believe that Joe Biden's fully there, which I think we all can unanimously agree that that's the case. It's like if you've been corrupt so long that you've been able to get away with it for so long, it's like once you start losing some of that brain power, you're already locked in on that. You know the plausible deniability. It's built into your veins. It's like this guy's been doing this for 40 something years. That's why he's the perfect guy. Any other person that wasn't as much of a seedy character for that long would be giving it up, would be screwing the pooch now. And he even does that, but the people are so brainwashed that he could say it straight out in the open, and they're like, no, he's just a friendly grandpa. Like, he just loves his son. It's like, okay.
Well, Joe Biden just came out in the speech, and he once again said he was the first person in his family that went to college. He literally admitted that years ago that he had lied about that, and they had a whole list of people in his family who had been to college. But he's trotting that lie back out there again because he says whatever appeases that, crowd he's got to pander to. He's Italian, he's Greek, he's Jewish, he's black, he's Puerto Rican, he's Irish. I don't know if I said that. He's all these different things. It's whoever he's in front of. I mean, this guy should really have a sponsorship from 23andMe, because, I mean, how many ethnicities and characteristics and qualities can one man have? He's literally everything to everybody. So it's amazing to me. And then you had Kamala Harris, who in her one bright spot in the primaries when she debated with however many hundred people they had out there running for the Democratic ticket back in 2019, 2020, she said in that first debate, she called Joe, I don't want to call you a racist, but Joe, you were against the busing, and I was that little black girl. She was against the busing too.
Yes.
And nobody bothers to call out the fact that she supported the same damn legislation.
Yeah.
So you're right. These people just say whatever they want to say and get away with it, man.
Yeah. And like, it's almost like if you take anything that Biden says and you just say, my dad had a saying, then everybody's like, yeah. It's like, he's like, my dad had a saying, Donald Trump is a racist. It's like your dad didn't say that, but okay. They always give him the pass when he says that.
Yeah. I saw two guys kissing on the street, and I looked at my dad. My dad said, Joey, you love who you love.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, well, all right, dude. He's like, you know what? He said, being trans is okay. Cut off their dick. It's totally fine. My dad said it at the kitchen table in Scranton, Pennsylvania, where I grew up. It's like, all right.
God love you. God love you. No, I'm for real. For real. I mean it.
Not
That's
a
no
joke.
That's no joke. My dad said it. Cut your dick off.
Yeah, cut it off. Cut it off, Joey, if it makes you happy. Meanwhile, I got to scrounge up for money for gas because we live in Scranton. It's like, okay.
Lunch Pail Joe. That's where I carry my dick.
Yeah, exactly. My dad said.
Oh, man. Bobby, we could have avoided a lot of trouble in our lives, maybe, if we would have just stuck to comedy and just kept going out and doing, shows and having a good time instead of getting into all this stuff. Because,
Yep.
we just piss people off for a living, You okay with that? You down with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's almost like, it's like the greatest challenge is the highest and best use of your time. So to me, it's almost like the fact that it's so hard leads me to believe that it's the right thing. The fact that it's not like a layup all the time and that it has these ups and downs leads me to believe that it is the right path. Yeah. Where that path will ultimately lead, remains to be seen. And, all great things come at the end of a lot of adversity. So it is, I must admit, it is a lot more challenging than I thought it was going to be, because people just, it's like people that agree with you, like I was saying before, that agree with you most of the time are just like, oh, they're like, screw you now. And it's like, dude, you listened to 99 things out of 100 that I said and you thought they were great. But now, because I said a thing that questions you, now I suck. They're like, unfollow. It's like, okay, I'll just put in 10,000 hours of work for you to just be like, I'm out.
You know, and I've always, I connected a few years ago, and we connected because I'm first and foremost a fan of what you do. It's fun. It's funny the way you do it. You drop the truth bombs. You're not afraid of the theories to put out there, and I like that. And so every now and then I check in on you and other folks that I know as well, because you're willing to buck the system a little bit. You're willing to buck the party line. You know, CJ, she and a friend of ours, Lily Kate, you know, Lily's got a big following out there. They got together and they came up with all these little ideas for little cringe videos for us to put on social media. They're great for clicks, but I hate them.
Yeah.
Because they're so corny. They're so cringe. And I was like, okay, I'll agree to go along with you girls to do this. And so some of them really triggered some people. And then Lily Kate texted me this morning and she said, okay, you want to do some more videos and you kind of maybe focus more on just comedy stuff and just fun. And I was like, well, I don't know. If you come across an idea that really triggers people, I'm willing to look at it.
Yeah.
I'm willing to take a look, you know, see what's up. Because I don't know. I like to stir the pot. I want to get people talking. I think that's my biggest thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm not pretending like I have all the answers, but I do want to get people talking. And I think that's sort of the way I learn things, you know. But man, what a crazy world we're living in with this stuff.
I think the thing that kills me is that, like, I think specifically right now, being at the end of like what we thought was going to be round 2 of Donnie, like laugh at all these people, laugh at the purple hair people. It's like, I feel like the right, or even just common sense people, let's just leave it at that, have been dealing with like L after L for 4 years now, where it's like the fatigue of receiving such a long string of L's and so many blatant, like, throw it in your face things. It's almost like you're at the end of your rope. And I feel like for us as a creator, it's like, it's almost hard to find the jokes. When Donnie was the president, there were so many hilarious jokes of like the things that Biden would do in the campaign trail. It was like endless. And it was so fun because you're just like, because you're getting W's sometimes, you get the occasional L, but now there's such a long string of L's that it's like, sometimes I'm like, I don't know what's funny today. And the only thing that I can think of is to say the thing that's not funny that I think, like you said, would make somebody think or would get somebody to talk. And I think that's like the inherent challenge, where it's almost like you have to go away from the thought stuff to make something funny when there isn't one. Yeah. It's the best when you have a little bit of, you're getting some wins, there's fun happening, you hit the occasional L. That's when the stuff flows. And right now I think that's very challenging. And I think that you and a lot of other creators on this side of view of things, whatever, are likely experiencing the same thing.
Well, I know that people have gotten, and I didn't think this was possible, but people have gotten even more thin-skinned, like with jokes, and they internalize it and individualize it. So if you push humor out there, they think you're specifically talking to them.
Yeah.
And they want to make it an even bigger fight. And that gets a little old and disconcerting, you know? So
it's the L's. That's what I'm saying. It's like, if you've been taking all of these L's where you turn on the TV and it's like Biden doing some other terrible thing and then people being completely blind to it. And then like Donnie getting persecuted, the guy that you like or like most of the time. And then like on the right, maybe a candidate that you like gets ostracized for no reason. And you're like, it's like, where is my home here? Where is the fun here? It's like, I'm just taking so many L's. It would be real great if like, maybe we could get a W. But then when you realize that even your party, we got Mike Johnson in. And the first thing he does, he's like, can't wait to give some more money to Israel, guys. Like, can't wait to give some more money to Ukraine, guys. Like, good thing we got Mike Johnson in. And then all the people that encouraged him to come in the first place are like, Mike Johnson kind of sucks. It's like, that's what you did though. Like you guys are the ones that did that. And then on the tail end of it all, they'll be like, Thomas Massey is a rhino. And it's like, Thomas Massey is a rhino? Like the one guy that's not a rhino is a rhino now? Like, I don't even know what planet these people are on. And it's like, that's where I just, sometimes I'm like, would it be better for my mental health to just never look at my phone again? Yeah. I don't know, but
yeah, it's
I guess we need to.
it's constantly swatting mosquitoes. I mean, and it's just like coming at you from every angle. And so now I'm like, you just can't, you get scared to say anything at some point in time because you're like, God, I'm just going to get attacked no matter what I do. But, hey, we're here for such a time as this. Are you getting out on the road? You doing any comedy shows anymore? Or that kind of, is that you pursuing it at all? Or are you just kind of just doing your thing?
I'm just doing my thing at the moment. I actually was talking with another buddy about perhaps getting into a couple more, but I don't have anything scheduled at the moment. I'm speaking at the Florida YR convention in Tampa this Saturday, so this will air a couple days after. So that's cool. I'm getting to the events. I'm trying to do some more speaking and things at these events. I think that's where I really would kill it, but I'm certainly open to do more comedy. But it's not something that I'm going after on a daily basis.
Well, you're good at it. You're fun. You're funny when you do it, and I love the depth that you take it. You got a lot of detail in the stories you tell, and it's a lot of fun the way you get there. Those conferences, man, they never invite me to speak anymore, dude. They'll have me in like once, and then they're like, "Oh, yeah, okay."
I don't get it, man. That's the thing. It's almost like navigating this whole experience, this world, the political world, is very weird. It's unlike any business that I've ever been a part of, where it's just like a lot of them are like, it's like merit based. It's like who's hot at the moment, who's bringing the most action here. But here it's almost like it is very much like a not, I don't mean to say boys, but like a boys club. It's like the in crowd, and it is. I do find it weird that culturally speaking, cultural figures are not more prominent in everyday political life. And I think that ultimately that is what will be necessary down the line. But there's a lot of like back scratching and hand holding. And I think that that's why we are not there more often. But then again, I don't know.
It's another gang. It's another gang.
Yes.
It's the same deal. It's just different. They just wear a different label. It's just another gang. But, I don't know. Anyway, dude, I appreciate the time, man. When I'm back in Florida, we got to connect and do some stuff. I've got some dates coming up later on. I'll holler at you. I also told our producers I want to fly you in either to Dallas or Houston so we can hang out and do this together.
Yeah.
This was sort of last minute. I was sitting around last night and I go, damn it, I want to talk to Bobby Sauce. And I haven't talked to you in a minute. So thanks for last minute graciously jumping to get on here and chat a little bit. And
for sure.
It's good stuff. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
And keep on rocking, dude. So people can find you as Bobby Sausalito, but people can find you and your merch at bobbysauce.com, right?
That's right. Yep. And then all my links, like my link tree is followbobby.com.
Okay, cool. And then you've got obviously Take Naps, which is exactly like it sounds, what you want to do at 3:00 in the afternoon, take a nap. Take Naps is Instagram. And are you doing much on Twitter? Do you care? I mean,
Twitter is my smallest community, but it's something that I'm building up because it's actually cool. Like you can actually say the thing you want to say. On all the other platforms, I'm like Donnie Baseball, Joey Basement. I'm trying to dance the line, but it's like on Twitter, it's almost weird. It's almost like it's like raw dogging information, It's like I can write Joe Biden, I can write Tran or whatever on Twitter for now.
Yeah, for now. We'll see how it goes. I despise X, but I get that warning every now and then. Are you sure you want to post this? Other people have had problems when they've posted this. Are you sure you want to say it? And I'm like, send.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it worse now.
Send, because that's a martyrdom I'm willing to take. Like if X is gonna kick me off, I think I can get some street cred out of that anyway.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you. Stay out of trouble, man.
Yeah,
Stay out of trouble, and keep me posted on what's going on, and I'll holler at you next time I'm through. For those of you who are watching or listening to this show, thank you. You mean the world to us. You're an audience that we value very much, and we sure appreciate when you go leave a rating and review. Follow at Take Naps. Follow Bobby Sausalito. Check him out. All the places he's stirring things up, man. It sure is fun and it's profound, and you will take something away from everything he posts, I promise. So don't miss out on that. Grow his following, expand his voice, And, just go in there and search his name in all the places. And guess what? It'll wake the algorithm back up and he'll experience some growth. And I'm sure he'll appreciate that. So
that's right.
Keep on rocking, Bobby. And hey, guys, listen, the rest of you, you can go to watchchad.com for all the fun stuff is. You can check my merch out at prathertees.com. And don't forget to follow me at WatchChad. We will talk to you next time. We love you. God bless you. Bye.